Can you shed some light on how an emerging market like India is responding to the adoption of home theaters, especially that boasts of Dolby's technologies, new technologies like Atmos and anything else?
Yeah, so it's been interesting, as we look at work in different emerging markets, including India. If we take an example of something like high definition, we've seen significant adoption and growth of high definition in these markets, be it set-top boxes being sold by pay TV operators or HD channels now coming with Dolby surround sound. Like for example, in India, we have over 60 HD channels, including regional channels, sports channels, GEC channels that are producing content with Dolby surround sound, discrete surround sound, putting them on air. So we see a lot of adoption of premium experiences coming into homes and people desiring and demanding those experiences. And yes, I mean, and it's this whole cycle of the content getting created with these experiences and then being made available by service providers, be it pay TV operators or OTT service providers, and the devices then showing up in the home where people can experience that. And it could start with a large television, and then a HD set-top box going into a sound bar or a home theater. So the setups may be different in homes, but we are seeing a lot of growth and increase in people's experience, interest in having these experiences. And linking that back to cinema, for example, when we talk about Dolby Atmos, for example, so Dolby Atmos is a next generation audio experience, and we brought that into cinema in about 4 years ago, and it's been very, very successful in emerging markets, including India, where today we have over 300 screens with Dolby Atmos installed, 300 movies that have been produced with Dolby Atmos. So, and this is not just in only the premium malls, but even in smaller cities, smaller towns, in single screens that they show up. And consumers across the country have shown a clear preference of watching a movie in Dolby Atmos vis-a-vis one in a cinema which doesn't have Dolby Atmos. And so if you look at titles like this Bahubali or some of the Bollywood titles, so I think now we are close to doing about 100 titles every year. So lots of content is showing up, a lot of cinema screens are showing up. Some of the screens are going on to become the highest grossing screens for top movies like Bahubali and things like those such movies. So yeah, I think there is definitely an increase in awareness, in adoption of more premium experiences, be it in the cinema, be it in the living room, and also on the mobile. So audio has become a very important topic for mobile now. I think it's an important consideration. So the amount of content being consumed on mobile has gone up quite a bit, and audio plays an important part. So people make that a decision criteria as to what kind of audio am I going to get from a mobile.
Okay, so since you've spoken about the consumer getting so adopted with it, can you shed some light on what the experience has been for the adoption of low cost home theaters that you get in a box from manufacturers like Sony, Samsung, LG, which are easily available to the consumer, and Dolby's partnership with them to bring this tech to low cost home theaters?
Right. So, I mean, if you look at home theaters or sound bars in that the audio category, and from a home perspective, I mean, you have a wide range of products available. Starting at 5,000-10,000 rupees, going right all the way up. And pretty much most time there's no upward ceiling in that sense. You can spend a lot of money in bringing in really high-end home theater systems. So and the solutions available at all price points. In terms of if you talk about the Dolby Atmos experience, the Atmos experience is a very scalable experience. In the cinema you can do it with 100 speakers. In your living room you can do it with maybe 7 to 10 speakers, or even just a sound bar. You can even do it with stereo speakers, so with upward firing stereo speakers. And you can do it in the mobile with either stereo speakers on the phone or on headphones. But what we also see in interesting development is Atmos showing up in televisions itself. So not just requiring a separate soundbar or a home theater, but in the television speakers, we can now generate an Atmos experience. When that is a significant step forward. That was not possible with channel-based sound like 5.1, where you needed a number of speakers to generate that experience. But the way Atmos as the technology is designed, and the way it renders out an object, it's possible to do that, with any configuration of speakers that you may have. The experience again is different based on what type of speakers you use and how they position, but it's possible to have that Atmos experience irrespective of the speaker configuration. And so like LG, for example, so last year LG launched Dolby Vision across their entire UHD lines, and this year we see them bringing both Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos to the TVs. Some of the TVs have a kind of a built-in soundbar, but some of them are just regular TV speakers being able to generate an Atmos experience. So I think so that's becoming quite widely available, and it does not necessarily need a full home theater to do it. I mean, for example, Atmos in the home can be done in so many different configurations, from a 7.1.4 to 5.1 with upward firing speakers, or on a soundbar and then stereo speakers, or even the TV now. So it's a very scalable experience in that sense.
Okay, so now coming to the content that people will consume on these devices at home, Dolby has partnered with Netflix to bring Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Okja was so widely popularized for that. When can we see the same with other streaming services like Amazon Prime Videos or Hotstar or any other service in India?
So content has always been a big priority for Dolby, and we've done that very successfully across the globe, in different markets. So what the work we've done with Hollywood, right, starting from 5.1 to what we've done with Atmos and Vision, and content creators have always been the champions to adopt the latest Dolby technologies. So Netflix is another part, is another phase in that story where Netflix started off with adopting Dolby Vision as their as a HDR format, and making committing to doing over 100 hours of content this year in Dolby Vision, and a lot of content is now showing up. Okja was the first movie that they did with Dolby Atmos, and with that they announced the arrival of Dolby Atmos on their service. So now Netflix has, Okja was with both Vision and Atmos, and we expect more content to show up there. We do work with Amazon also on Dolby Vision, so they have content that on the Amazon service with Dolby Vision. There are several other services across the globe, like Voodoo, and then other services, in Europe and China, where these experiences are available. As far as so in India you have content available from services like Netflix already with the Atmos and Vision experience. You can get UHD Blu-rays. There are over 40 Indian Blu-ray titles available with the Atmos experience. So there is a set of amount of content already available, and we are very actively working with a number of OTT partners in India to bring in the Dolby experiences in a phased manner over a period of time. So I don't have specific announcements at this stage, but you can look forward to Dolby Audio, Dolby Atmos, and in future Dolby Vision experiences also coming to local services and local content. So that's an area of the high priority area, and we are working with these partners on in making that happen, both solving the technical challenges and making the content production set up for doing these experiences.
Okay. So when you watch Tata Sky or Airtel or Videocon, the HD channels on these service providers, you see a little Dolby watermark that comes in,
Right.
Dolby Audio.
Right.
Is there any way to know which, is it Dolby DTS or 5.1 or 7.1 audio that these service providers are giving? Is there any way to know that?
Yeah, so we are working with and two parts to that story. So one is the channel, which has the content, producing the content and broadcasting the content. So we have over 60 channels. I think the precise number is 62 channels now in India, HD channels, which are producing and broadcasting Dolby Audio. And when we talk about Dolby Audio, we are primarily talking about Dolby 5.1, and it's using our codec called Dolby Digital Plus. So that's one part where the content is being produced and broadcasted by the channels, and that exists in national GEC channels, and then sports channels, and even regional channels. We have a number of regional channels, language channels that are now broadcasting Dolby 5.1 or Dolby Audio with their HD channels. The second part of that piece is the service provider, the DTH operator. And in India, we work very closely with Tata Sky and Airtel. So their services and their HD set-top boxes provide support for Dolby Audio. So if you have a service from Tata Sky and Airtel, you can actually connect it up to a home theater or a soundbar or any in 2.0 speaker to really get a much enhanced audio experience. So the specific answer it's when you're talking about Dolby Audio and what you see the watermark or the brand that's available on several channels now. So it's a promise. It's the indication that content is being produced and broadcasted with Dolby Digital Plus in 5.1 audio. And then if you have a suitable service or a suitable set-top box, you will be able to receive that and enjoy that in your living room.
Okay. There are a lot of TVs, HDR TVs that have launched that specify HDR10 only, and a lot of them do confirm that they will get Dolby Vision through a software or a firmware update. Is this applicable for all HDR TVs out there, or do you have to have a specific tie-up or some communication with the manufacturer to enable Dolby Vision?
So we are working with a number of manufacturers globally. So we're working with the top, we're working the top 9 manufacturers globally now to bring Dolby Vision to their televisions. Our lead partner has been LG. So LG has made Dolby Vision available across, starting last year, across their entire UHD line, OLED line. So, and they've continued this year. As I said, they've also added Dolby Atmos. So in terms of, specifically if a consumer is checking for Dolby Vision support, they have to make sure that they check for that, either through the company's website or the representative, to make sure that the firmware upgrade is going to be available. So it's not by default that every HDR10 TV gets an upgrade for Dolby Vision. There is a specific implementation that needs to be done, in terms of the features that Dolby Vision allows with dynamic metadata, the scene by scene metadata, that work we do. So it's not automatic. One has to check and make sure that the TV either comes preloaded with Dolby Vision support or will have a firmware upgrade available. So it needs to be checked, I would say.
Okay, so Netflix claims that you need 24 Mbps to have a good 4K experience. Has that changed with their implementation of Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos? Can you elaborate on the internet connectivity one needs at home to enjoy Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos through Netflix seamlessly?
So actually both Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos are very bandwidth efficient. So yes, when you kind of go from HD to 4K, you obviously need a significant jump in your bandwidth. But what happens with Dolby Vision is typically you're talking about 10% additional bandwidth to be used. So whether you're watching HD or 4K at whatever resolution bandwidth you're watching, Dolby Vision typically requires about 10% more bandwidth to be able to provide that entire Dolby Vision HDR experience. In terms of audio, the audio bandwidth generally is much smaller, and with something like Dolby Digital Plus 5.1, it's typically streamed at 192 kbps, and with something like Atmos, it's currently being streamed at 384 kbps. But going forward, we are working on new technologies that will bring down the bandwidth requirement quite significantly going forward. So there are new codecs that we are working on that we've already launched and announced and are standardizing currently. So once that happens, we'll be able to do Dolby Atmos delivery at significantly reduced bandwidths.
Oh, okay. Now coming to physical medium adoption, which of course a lot of people would go out and buy a CD to keep it for long term, or they would want to subscribe to a channel, a service provider.
Right.
How have you seen the adoption of newer Dolby technologies like Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos in physical mediums like Blu-rays and all that are being purchased?
Right. Yeah. So Blu-ray, we've seen the new UHD standards for Blu-ray come out, and actually Hollywood is seeing is a resurgent in physical media. So UHD Blu-ray is actually doing quite well, and Dolby technologies, starting with Atmos and now Vision, have been adopted in these physical media. So talking about Blu-ray, Dolby Atmos shows up in many Blu-rays now. Just for India specifically, we have 40 titles available with Dolby Vision Blu-ray content, Indian movies. Globally, we have more than 100 titles available. And as far as UHD is concerned, UHD titles available with Dolby Vision also. So physical media, yes, is an important play. It's a major distribution for premium content. And but yes, online streaming is catching up globally. There's a big move towards streaming happening, and I think companies like Netflix and Amazon are really defining that space by bringing premium cinematic experiences into the homes, into the living room, even onto smartphones now or tablets. So I think it's an interesting space to watch. But I think where the industry is moving is moving to more immersive and more spectacular experiences, and Dolby has a big role to play. We've always played a very important role from an audio perspective of providing the best possible audio experience, and we did that with 5.1 and then with Atmos, and now we're doing that with video also. So video is an area that Dolby's invested in terms of research for over 10 years, and with Dolby Vision to market, I think there's a great response from both content and devices to adopt Dolby Vision in these services. So our aim is that irrespective of where you are consuming media, be it in the cinema, be it in the living room, or be it on the go on your mobile, and irrespective of what the distribution media is it online, is it OTT, is it physical media, you should be able to have that spectacular Dolby experience. So we look at all formats and all distribution to make that available.
So Dolby Atmos as a tech now is 5 years old. So what's next for Dolby when it comes to audio tech? What's the next new innovation?
Well, so actually, Dolby Atmos is a platform. It's been rolled out in specific implementations. We brought it to cinema first, and I mean, I would say Dolby Atmos. There's a lot of work to be done in Dolby Atmos, and our focus with Dolby Atmos now is to make the Dolby Atmos experience available across multiple form factors. So it's not just in the cinema with 100 speakers. It's in your home, as we said, with 7.1.4. It's on your mobile with stereo speakers, on sound bars, on television sets itself. So the idea is to make that Atmos experience available on all form factors and not be limited by requiring a certain form factor or certain number of speakers to make the Atmos available. So Atmos, Atmos is really is a big shift in the industry to move from channel-based sound to object-based sound. When you look at the object-based experience with Atmos, not only do you have very precise movement and positioning of sound, you also have the height experience, so it's extremely immersive. So I would not say that Atmos is an 5-year-old experience and what's next. I think we're just getting started with Atmos. We've launched and brought about certain experiences with Atmos, and I think there's a lot more to do, and in different form factors and different price points. So it should be available in a much wider price point range and more number of devices. So you should be able to get that Atmos experience wherever you are consuming media, be it with television, speakers, or a full home theater, or watching it in a movie.
Okay. Now, speaking of Dolby Atmos on the phone, it is said that to have a good experience, you should have it with the headphones, and a lot of people ask us about whether it should be noise cancellation headphones. Do you need to buy a certain quality or grade of headphones? So the headphones need to be Dolby Atmos enabled.
Right.
So can you answer this based on someone who's experiencing Dolby Atmos on a phone that is boasting of the technology?
I mean, it's a broad question, so there are a lot of specifics in that, but in general, I would say, the Dolby Atmos experience over headphones, yes, it's a very compelling, immersive experience. Yes, a better quality headphone will give you a better audio experience. It's not necessarily that the Atmos experience will be suboptimal in a cheaper headphone, let's say. So you would get that audio experience, but the audio experience obviously is determined by the kind of headphone you're using. So a higher quality headphone will give you a better audio experience overall. So it's not that Atmos experience cannot be only requires an expensive headphone. I mean, you should be able to get an Atmos experience with the bundled headphones also that comes with any phone. Now as far as the noise cancellation is concerned, in general it should help. Now again, it may differ by specific implementations, and consumers should actually try it out before buying the headphone. In general, it should help, but I'm not aware of any specific implementation where noise cancellation interferes with the Atmos experience. So noise cancellation is useful if you are outdoors or in a plane. That's where those environments, it obviously takes out all the noise from the background. So it should actually usually help the Atmos experience, but it's not directly dependent on that. Without that, you're not going to get an Atmos experience, or you just need a very expensive headphone to get it. It's not really directly dependent on that. And as far as headphones versus speakers on the mobile is concerned, we have several phones that that we've seen in the market where the manufacturers have implemented the Dolby Atmos experience on the phone speakers itself, but it would require stereo speakers. So front-facing stereo speakers are required to be able to implement that experience. So one should check on the particular phone that they're buying if the Dolby Atmos experience has been implemented on the mobile speakers itself or not. Usually if it's a mono speaker and not front facing, then it's a little more difficult to get that Atmos experience. It's not going to be very optimal, so then the headphones are the best way to get it. But there are several models where the Atmos experience is available on the phone speakers also.